Hey, this week we are going to answer what is probably the most common question anyone has about going through childbirth before they actually do it.
Yeah, and that is, what do contractions actually feel like? But just in case it's your first time meeting us, I'm Kurt, I'm a board-certified pediatrician.
I'm Sarah, I'm a board-certified OBGYN.
And we are the Doctors Bjorkman. Welcome back to what is sure to be a shockingly good episode. This week we're talking all about labor contractions.
Yes, so contractions are that necessary evil required to get baby from the uterus out into the world in a vaginal delivery. They are involuntary, smooth muscle contractions. So yes, the uterus is a great big muscle. And so these contractions occur at intervals before and during childbirth. So you may notice your uterus contracting before you're actually in labor, and we call these Braxton Hicks contractions.
Gotcha. Okay, so before you go on to talking about those real contractions, could you talk a little bit more about these Braxton Hicks contractions and what actually are these?
Yes, so Braxton Hicks are contractions, okay? But we kind of think of them as practice contractions because they're not doing anything. They aren't changing your cervix. You might start to notice these in the second or late third trimester, and it's kind of a tightening of your stomach or uterus, or you feel your uterus feels like a rock. So again, it's a contraction, but it happens very sporadically. They don't increase in strength or intensity, and they're very irregular in duration and frequency and are kind of just unpredictable. They're usually more uncomfortable and annoying than painful. However, if you start to notice before, early second or third trimester, you are having regular contractions, this is something you always want to go see your OB for.
Gotcha. So the Braxton Hicks contractions are real contractions. They're just not making any true cervical change.
Correct. They're kind of random.
Okay.
So again, the difference between those Braxton Hicks and true labor contractions is that real contractions are coming at regular intervals. They lead to cervical change, and as labor progresses, they become stronger, more intense, and more frequent.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think it's really helpful to think about labor. Labor has 3 stages, right? The first stage being cervical dilation.
Yep.
Stage 2 being pushing.
Yep.
And stage 3 being the placenta, actually. Okay.
Yes.
So after baby, then delivery of the placenta.
Yep.
Okay. And that first stage of labor is divided into early or latent labor,
Yep.
and then second being active labor, with early labor being the time where the cervix is dilating from 0 to 6 centimeters, and then active labor really kicking off to dilate the cervix from 6 to fully dilated at 10 centimeters.
Yes, and early or latent labor, getting from kind of 0 to 6 centimeters, can take a very long time. The length of duration of that first early labor can be really variable. Sometimes women this takes hours, or kind of dysfunctional labor kind of over a couple days where they're contracting but not really regularly, pretty infrequently.
And then the active labor is where the contractions really start to bang out every 2 to 3 minutes and really hitting with more intensity.
Yep. Once you are in active labor, we say, hey, we are on this train, baby is coming.
Okay.
Yep. So then, as Kurt said, we have the second stage of labor, and that's pushing. That second stage of labor starts when your cervix is fully dilated, or 10 centimeters, and it ends with delivery of that sweet babe. Yeah. The third stage of labor is delivery of the placenta. So third stage starts after baby's born until that placenta delivers.
Gotcha. And you're still having contractions during third stage too?
Indeed. The uterus is still contracting to push that placenta out. It's just very different, less uncomfortable than labor. Pushing that baby out, also placenta is a lot smaller, no bones. So
Gotcha.
Way different.
Okay. But I feel like what people really want to know is, what do contractions actually feel like? And so just for fun this week, why don't we just ask someone who is actually in labor?
So what do contractions feel like is something I feel like, moms want to know. I have had Pitocin contractions and natural contractions. I think they both suck. But it's really like and this, I think, experience is different for everyone. It's like an intense squeezing, like you feel your uterus get hard like a rock. And then it's just this really intense squeeze, kind of like a cramp, that just continues to build in intensity it's a really fun time. So that's what we're working on right now, is having some regular contractions that are uncomfortable. I've been contracting on and off, but not really feeling them. Like I could feel my uterus get hard, but it wasn't uncomfortable. And that is just how it goes. So we're just working on building some intensity with Pitocin here.
One other description of contractions that I like to talk with patients about is to compare them to waves. So this kind of can give you a mental image of what to expect and prepare you for what a contraction might be like. So at the beginning, in early labor, those waves are pretty gentle. Think of it as a soft, slow wave washing up on the beach, okay? You might notice some tightening at regular intervals. Maybe starts to feel like a little back cramp or some achy period cramps. It's enough where you say, hey, I'm gonna start timing these. I'm noticing some regular contractions. But there, you can walk and talk through them. As labor progresses, those waves are going to get more and more intense. So in active labor, they're going to be coming more frequently, every 2 to 3 minutes or so. And they start to last longer, up to 60 seconds. You are going to be breathing through them, not wanting to talk through them anymore. You are working now. And again, you know that you've got that 60 seconds before you get a break from that till that next wave. So they're not just achy cramps. They are super intense, painful cramps. You are going to notice that tightening of your belly. It might be accompanied by back pain, strong pain or pressure in your lower abdomen and your vagina, as well as maybe some cramping in your hips and your legs.
Gotcha. That does not sound like fun at all.
It's not a great time.
So just for fun, I thought it'd be great to ask our Instagram community, like, what do
Contractions
they feel like, contractions feel like? So you got some pretty comical and maybe some illuminating answers from the crowd.
Yes, really funny stuff. So what do contractions feel like is what I said. And here's some answers. Braxton Hicks equals tightness. Contraction equals worst period cramp of your life. Worst period cramps times 100. Period cramps on steroids. When things really ramp up and it's time to push, it feels like your cervix is exploding.
A horror story that came to life.
Yeah, the worst pain you could possibly imagine. I blacked out from the pain. Here's one. Unlike period cramps, there's a clear rise and fall. So that's kind of that wave phenomenon. Like there's a balloon in your belly that's expanding past the point of your belly side. My crotch, the second was like someone was knifing their way out of my stomach. Really bad food poisoning cramps. Someone said like I made a mistake 9 months prior. Like your whole body is contracting with the most pain in the abdomen, back, glutes, and quads. Someone is squeezing a vise on your pelvis as hard as possible. For me, it felt like stabbing internally in the abdomen towards the vagina. So again, this like achy period cramp, stabbing knife pain. It's not a great time. You can work through them. But hopefully these gave you a little chuckle.
So I know you talked about this just briefly already, but that question of like, is there a difference between natural contractions and induced contractions? Are they different at all?
So yes and no. Often with an induction of labor, you are going to be on a medication called Pitocin or oxytocin. It is the same hormone that the body makes to produce those contractions. But because you weren't in labor, now we are giving that medication to you through an IV, and the goal is to get your uterus to contract at regular intervals. So this kind of makes it so you start having those intense waves a lot earlier. There isn't so much that building up from the gentle waves to those crashing waves. We're just like, let's go. Having had both natural contractions and Pitocin contractions, I can assure you they both suck.
Yeah, they haven't looked like fun.
It's not. No,
yeah.
no.
And I think it's important for people to remember that the uterus is a muscle that's doing a really hard work for multiple hours during labor. Right?
Yeah, so imagine if you are going to go for a long run, okay? You are going to get really tired and you're going to have super achy legs, and then you've got to go and run some more. Again, you are going to be tired, exhausted, super achy legs. Same thing is happening with your uterus. Your uterus is working really hard. It's going to be really, really intense. you don't have to be afraid of this. It's very normal, but also know that there are options for pain control if you're interested.
Yeah, and we've actually done an episode all about pain control options during labor, and so please make sure you check that out here.
Yeah. So I realized that this is a bit more medicalized than some people desire for themselves. But all of my birth plans were get an epidural and have a baby.
Yeah.
If you are hoping for a pain medication-free birth, I so encourage you to train for that, okay? Work on breathing, mental prep. There is so much you can do to prepare yourself to work through and do that natural labor. Because again, labor is a marathon and you want to be prepared. You are not going to show up on race day to run a marathon never having trained, done some running, done stretching, put in miles before you get there for that race. And it is the same thing for natural birth. There's a lot you can do to help prepare yourself to achieve that goal if that's something you want.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't ever looked like a short, easy race.
It is not, no.
Yeah.
So the final waves of labor are when you are fully dilated and it is time to push. These waves you cannot ignore. You are going to likely feel rectal pressure, so kind of like the baby sitting in your bottom. And also at the end, there's this phenomenon called the ring of fire. This is your body saying it is time to end all of these sensations. It's time to push. You are kind of involuntarily just going to feel like you have to push.
Gotcha. Now, you've had an epidural for all of your deliveries.
Yes.
Do you still feel that ring of fire?
You feel it. It's just like at a much less intense level.
Okay.
So one of my girlfriends who had an unmedicated birth described the ring of fire as someone lighting your vagina on fire and then sawing you in half. So I haven't had the privilege to experience that, again, given 3 wonderful epidurals, but I know many mamas who do and really enjoy that challenge of working through that intensity.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know, like, no matter how you do it, like, you mamas are rock stars. I know, like, every time I've watched you give birth, I just, like, sat back and been amazed, just, like, how awesome you are, and also really glad, again, that I'm not the one that has to go through it.
Yeah. So that's a contraction. That's kind of what to expect in labor. I know that knowing what to expect makes me more comfortable with what's to come. Knowledge is power. So hopefully this episode helps you feel more prepared for your birth. So excited for you to get there. Thank you for joining us. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and come see us next week.
Yeah, we'll have more episodes coming from about our own recent delivery and that care for both mom and baby shortly after birth in the upcoming weeks. So stay tuned. Bye, guys.